Harry and Meghan are going to be flying into town.
So, yes, Prince Harry is coming to the UK because he will mark 1 year to go to his Invictus Games being held in Birmingham. So we knew that Prince Harry was coming. The perhaps surprising news is that he's bringing with him Meghan and Archie and Lilibet. And I say that is surprising, not because we know that Harry wants to introduce his children to where he grew up and where he lived and where he's from, but he has said that until his security situation is resolved, he is arguing that he wants automatic protection guaranteed when he comes to the UK. Until that's solved, he has argued that it is not safe to bring his wife and children here. So that situation as yet has not been, as far as we're aware, resolved, or at least we haven't been told publicly whether it's been resolved or not. So it was surprising to find out that he was bringing them. But it therefore paves the way and starts the questions. Will Harry, Meghan and the children see the king?
And if the security doesn't go the way they want it to go, will Harry then say, oh, well, actually, I'm not going to bring them now after saying that I have brought them? There is a school of thought that has been put to me, is this Harry trying to sort of force the issue by saying, right, I'm going to bring Meghan and the kids, but if this security situation goes against me, then I'm going to leave them at home. Is that why he did it? Or announced it so early?
Well, I mean, can't his dad just pay it? I mean, we now know he's one of the top 100 taxpayers.
I don't think it's about the expense, though, is it? I mean, this whole argument has never been about the money. It's been about the fact that, do you have access to sort of state secrets? In other words, like, will you get intelligence from MI5 and MI6 about the threat to Harry? And you can't buy that stuff. You can't hire private security guards. It's whether or not Harry gets given the full protection, not just physical officers, perhaps, but the full protection of the intelligence services as well. Because, as Harry's team says, a lot, he does face more threats in this country than anywhere else he goes in the world. That's what he says. That's what he gets told, and therefore he says, how can I come to the UK with all those threats with my wife and kids if no one's going to sort of look after me while I'm there?
Well, I mean, the vitriol that is stirred up daily regarding his wife, one could argue he has a very good point. There isn't as much vitriol written about many other women in the way in which it is written about Meghan, and that has consequences of which I'm sure both of them are very much aware of when they're thinking about flying in here.
After hearing that discussion, one thing becomes very clear. The conversation around Prince Harry, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet returning to the UK has now become reality, but it has also exposed something that has been sitting underneath this entire story for years. Because this was never just about a plane ticket. It was never just about whether a family decides to visit one country over another, and it was never as simple as some people wanted to make it sound. For weeks, the UK media has been creating conversations, predictions, and endless speculation about the Sussex family returning. And now that the visit is confirmed, the conversation has shifted. It is no longer just about whether Harry and Meghan will come back. The bigger question is, why did this return become such a complicated conversation in the first place? Because during this discussion, even the commentators themselves had to confront the bigger issue, the issue that has followed the story from the beginning: security, safety, and the environment that Harry, Meghan, and their children would be stepping into. Because for years, one of the biggest criticisms thrown at Prince Harry has been, why doesn't he just bring his family back? But when that question is asked, there is often a very important part left out. Why would any parent ignore concerns they believe are serious when it comes to their children? Why would any family make a decision like this without thinking about every possible factor? And what made this discussion stand out is that they actually talked about the reality behind that question. This is not simply about hiring a few security guards and saying, problem solved. Even the panel acknowledged that Harry's concerns have always been about something bigger. It is about the level of protection available. It is about intelligence. It is about whether the systems that protect members of the royal family are available to him and his family. And that is something money cannot simply fix. You cannot walk into a shop, put a credit card down, and purchase access to intelligence information. That is not how any of this works. But somehow, for years, the conversation has often been reduced to the simplest version possible. Harry wants special treatment. Harry wants someone else to pay. Harry is complaining. But the reality is much more complicated. Even the discussion admitted that the argument was never simply about expense. It was about security and whether Harry believes his family would be protected properly. And then came the moment that really caught attention. Charlene White pointed out something that many people have been talking about for years. The level of hostility directed towards Meghan has been different. She said the vitriol written and stirred up around Meghan has consequences. And that statement matters, because for a long time, people have tried to pretend that the treatment Meghan received was just normal criticism. But there is a difference between criticism and a constant cycle of hostility. There is a difference between discussing a public figure and turning someone into a permanent target. And when that atmosphere exists for years, people cannot then act confused when the person at the center of it decides they need distance. This is the part that frustrates many people. The same media environment that spent years creating negative headlines around Meghan then turns around and asks, why don't Harry and Meghan want to come back? It's a strange cycle. The media creates the storm, then reports on the storm, then wonders why everyone is standing in the rain. It almost feels like watching someone create a problem and then immediately investigate why the problem exists. The story keeps chasing itself. And what is even more interesting now is how quickly a family decision becomes a worldwide discussion when it involves Harry and Meghan. The moment the visit was confirmed, the conversation immediately moved beyond the visit itself. Suddenly, everyone wanted to analyze where they would go, who they would see, what would happen, and what it all means. And once again, Harry and Meghan became the center of a conversation that became much bigger than a simple family moment. That is something we have seen repeatedly with the Sussexes. A story appears, the story grows, the story becomes a headline, then the reaction to the headline becomes another headline. And somehow, Harry and Meghan are expected to answer questions they did not create. But underneath all of that noise is a very simple human question. If you are a parent, what matters more than feeling your children are safe? Not popularity, not headlines, not public approval. Safety. That is the most basic instinct. And whether people support Harry or not, that is something many people can understand. Because Archie and Lilibet are not just part of a royal conversation. They are children. They are a family. And every parent has to make decisions based on what they believe is best for their children. The interesting thing about this entire debate is that people often talk about Harry as if he is making a political statement. But a lot of what he has said over the years comes back to one thing: protecting his family. And that is where Meghan's experience becomes part of the conversation. Because the atmosphere around Meghan did not appear overnight. It was built through years of headlines, commentary, debates, and endless public discussion. And when Charlene White acknowledged that the hostility toward Meghan has been different, that was a moment that many people noticed, because it challenged a very comfortable narrative. The narrative that Meghan simply walked away because she could not handle attention. But maybe the question should be, what kind of attention was she receiving? Because not all attention is equal. A positive headline and a hateful campaign are not the same thing. A normal disagreement and a constant stream of negativity are not the same thing. And when a person is repeatedly targeted, it is understandable that their family would think carefully before returning to that same environment. The conversation around Harry and Meghan has always been emotional because it represents something bigger. It represents a clash between tradition and change, between the old way of doing things and the new way. Harry leaving royal duties with Meghan was not just a personal decision, it challenged an entire system. And since then, every move they make has been examined. Every interview, every appearance, every project, every family moment, everything becomes a debate. And sometimes it feels like people forget they are talking about real people, real parents, real children, not characters in some never-ending drama series. Although, judging by some headlines, you would think there's a royal writer's room somewhere producing weekly episodes. But behind all the noise, this discussion accidentally highlighted something important. The reason Harry and Meghan's return is such a big topic is because people know the relationship between them and the UK media has been complicated. People know there are unresolved issues. People know security has been a major concern. And people know that Meghan's treatment has played a huge role in how this entire situation developed. And now that the visit is happening, one thing is worth remembering. A return for an important moment does not erase everything that happened before. It does not mean every challenge disappeared overnight, and it does not mean every difficult conversation is suddenly finished. Families can make decisions based on love, important moments, and personal reasons, while still remembering everything they have experienced along the way. The question now should not simply be about the visit itself. It should be about why this visit became such a complicated conversation in the first place, because that's the real story. A family's decision about where they feel comfortable is not a public vote. The Sussexes have built a life away from the constant spotlight. They have created a home, they have focused on their children, they have continued their work. And whether people agree with their choices or not, they have shown that they value their peace and their family. So when the conversation comes back to this UK visit, the same themes appear again. Security, trust, treatment, and the environment they are returning into. The fascinating thing about this ITV discussion is that it did not just talk about Harry and Meghan, it revealed something about the entire conversation surrounding them. Because even while discussing their return, the panel had to acknowledge the very reasons why returning has been complicated. And perhaps that is the biggest takeaway. The story was never only about whether Harry and Meghan would come back, it was always about why leaving became necessary in the first place. And until those deeper issues are understood, the headlines will keep coming, the speculation will keep growing, and everyone will continue asking the same questions. But maybe the answer has been there all along. And another thing that stands out is how much attention is placed on Harry and Meghan simply choosing to spend time in the UK. A normal family visit would usually just be a family visit, but with the Sussexes, every decision seems to become a major public event, with people searching for hidden meanings behind every move. A visit becomes a statement, a choice becomes a strategy, a family moment becomes a debate. And that says a lot about how intensely their every action continues to be watched. There's also an interesting contrast here. For years, some commentators have questioned whether Harry and Meghan still have any connection to the UK, yet the moment they do return, the reaction proves just how much interest remains. The same people who claim they should simply disappear often cannot stop discussing them. It creates a strange situation where the Sussexes are criticized for leaving, criticized for staying away, and then criticized again when they return. It's almost as if the goalposts keep moving whenever they make a decision. But perhaps the most important part of this moment is that Harry and Meghan are returning on their own terms, not because of pressure, not because of demands, and not because anyone else decided what their family should do. They are making a choice based on what matters to them. And that is something that has been consistent since they stepped away from royal duties, creating a life where family, privacy, and personal decisions come before public expectations. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Smiley here, and happy Friday.